Greetings from the Long Island Sound podcast. Welcome to the show. Please rate, review, and comment on the show, and call our listener line and leave a message for our guests. Dial 631-800-3579. All right, enjoy the show.
Thanks for joining us for the Long Island Sound podcast. Each week we explore new music and dive deeper with the artists and their stories behind the music. Please subscribe and rate and review us wherever you stream this podcast. Here's your host, Steve Yusko.
Looking for an energy boost? Well, you've come to the right place. Final Call is my guest today. Originally from Long Island, the boys met in high school and have been going strong for almost a decade. A pop-punk band with impressive chops, we explore their music, process, and social media strategy. Let's drink in their song, What Lies Ahead. Listening to their songs makes you want to hit the club scene and experience the band live. Final Call was established by three friends in high school with a verdant musical career on track. With that, I say, welcome, guys, to the podcast. Good to have you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So I'll start off with Pat, because you're the lead singer, right, Pat? So
Indeed, I am.
When did you guys get together, and how did the Final Call become a band?
Yeah, so we've been a band now for about 9 years, which is crazy to think about looking back on it. But We were actually all really good friends in high school. We went to St. Anthony's High School together, and we were all on the track team together, which is where the name Final Call came from, because it was like, oh, Final Call 1600 when you're stepping up to your race.
We were on like a meet. They would have a final call for events.
Slight PTM.
So you got taught by the brothers, huh?
Yeah, we did. We did. Which you would think a pop punk band wouldn't really have that association with it, but so all best friends from high school, and we started our junior year. Actually, it kind of just started through our school's talent show or variety show that was happening, and we decided to just go for it one year, and the crowd response and just kind of the way that we felt was too good to pass up on. So ever since then, we've been, delving into our own original music and playing more and more shows, both in Long Island and New York City, which is primarily where we're based out of now. So it's only been going up since then, but that's kind of how we started.
So is the original lineup still part of the group right now, or were there some changes?
So we've had a couple of changes on the bass guitar, they've all been great friends of ours, but, just availability and things change over the years. But
we can certainly point out, you can point out the one that was lousy if he's not here or she's not here.
No,
I'm all about that.
No, they're all great. The rest of us have stayed the same. It's just bass has been kind of a revolving door. But we got a good guy now that we like, so that's what matters, right? But me, Pat, and Greg have been the same since high school.
Gotcha. Now, who are we missing?
So Greg is our lead
members.
Guitarist, and Paul is our bassist.
Right. So just repeat, Pat, for me. Give me the lineup.
Yeah. So Greg Diem, he's our lead guitarist, and Paul Von Vis is our bass guitarist. So it's a pretty typical 4-piece.
Gotcha. You know what's funny is actually my brother-in-law George. So he's about 67 now. Went to St. Anthony's as well.
Oh yeah.
Was in a band with guys from St. Anthony's, right? For a short period of time. One guy that lasted in the business is a guy named Brian Unger, who was part of this group, one of his many groups called Industry. Did a video on MTV in the 70s, which was kind of cool to watch. Yeah, and he still produces music and has a studio in Patchogue.
Oh, very cool.
Of all places as well. So it's funny, these little connections, that come about, So you're in St. Anthony's, you get the itch, you get a good response, and what do? Start gigging right away, hitting the local bars and festivals and stuff? Or how did things progress for you? Because I'm only interested you've been together 9 years. That's quite a milestone, by the way.
Doesn't feel like it. But
yeah, I know. Blink of an eye, right?
Evan, you could probably, if you want to speak.
Yeah, so we started playing, because we were, like Pat said, we're all friends together. In high school, we started playing the shows there. We played the talent show twice, and we played a couple other like local, like youth center. Like we played at the local library when they had like, a rock show or something. Sure. And then eventually we went, so that's around the time we all went to college. And then at that point, since, we all went to different schools, we kind of were like, well, we want to keep playing. Where do we go from here? Start to get bars and outside, venues and things like that. So I remember right away when we started college, I don't know how we got this gig, but we got Amityville Music Hall in the fall of our freshman year. And I'm pretty sure that was our first quote unquote, like public venue, where like anybody could go and we were selling tickets and things like that. So we all came home for that. It was probably around like October of, I guess that was 2015. And then since then we probably have done, anywhere from like 2 or 3 per year to up to like 4, 5, 6, even, I think at the height of our powers and, like towards the end of college. Most of the time we would try to get shows, like I said, since we were all apart from each other, we'd try to get shows during the breaks, like Thanksgiving, Easter, and obviously over summer, we'd try to play as much as we could. Sure. But yeah, we started out in Amityville. We played at AMH, we played at Revolution a bunch, and then just tried to, meet people that we would meet at shows and connect with them and see if they booked any other places. And I think that's pretty much where the trajectory that we followed. Our guitarist Greg handled a lot of our bookings for the most part. Now, as we get older and make our own individual connections, like we will try to book more each, like some of us will find something and then one of us will tell the rest of them about it. But that's kind of where we started, and we played a lot on Long Island in the beginning, just because that's where we all were from. And now, since most of us live in Manhattan or New York City, we have been trying to get a bunch more shows here. We just played on Lower East Side a couple weeks ago, and I think we're going to play around there again in the early part of next year. Just trying to work on expanding, and also thankful for all the places that we've been, and they've gotten us to where we are today.
Now, right out of the gate, did you guys have music that you've already written and you started to do your own originals, or did you work through, the cover band stuff and then sneak stuff in? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I think it was like at the start, at least, it was definitely more cover band oriented for the band that primarily drove us together. So like Green Day and Blink-182 was a lot of the stuff that we played. But as we worked together as a band more, it didn't take us long to start kind of writing our own material and bringing it to the rest of the group. So like Evan said, when we started to play our own shows and stuff, at that point we had already written and released an EP, I believe. At this point, we've released 2 EPs and a full-length album. So over the course of 7 or so years, every couple of years, we'll put out another couple songs. And the songwriting process has, transitioned from one of us kind of having an idea and bringing it to the group to us hashing the song out a lot more together,
Nice.
Bring the collective ideas of the group into it. Not to say that one person doesn't start it, and come up with the initial idea, but I think we all recognize each other's strengths and, try to bring in external inputs where we can.
Nice. That sounds great. I always ask that because the fact that you've been together, and not to harp on this too much, for 9 years, you got to be doing something right. And I think a couple of things play into it for bands and singer-songwriters. And one is obviously chemistry. So you're playing together, you got chemistry. But then you have to have that back office chemistry as far as putting songs together and hashing things out and, seeing what works and pulling it together. The other thing I found interesting, and I've kind of learned this over the past few months, is what used to be the approach of gathering enough songs to put together an album no longer really is a priority.
Yeah.
It really is. It seems to me to be, hey, you know what? People don't have the attention span to listen through a whole album. We've got to do this ice cream cone thing where we're putting out EPs with 2 or 3 songs to try to stay relative and keep it fresh, I guess, with your base,
Yeah.
So,
when we first started releasing songs, we went the EP route for a while. And mainly that was just because we were, still in school. So we were busy with a lot of, we had other stuff going on. So we couldn't really get together and we felt that we couldn't write, a full album. So we put out, EPs of 4 or 5, I think, either 4 or 5 songs on both of them to start with, just because we figured, hey, we have this handful of songs. We're not going to wait to write another, 5. Let's just put these out while we can, and just, give people some singles, some content, and then eventually, we were able to put out the full album this past year. So that was rewarding. But
like you said, though, Steve, I think a lot of people it's just harder to get people to listen to full albums in general. A lot of people are just listening to the radio or the singles that come out on new LPs. So we try to release as many as singles as we can.
It's streams. It's Spotify. That you try to hook on the algorithm, right? So the more singles you release, the better chances you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's, and we'll get into this after the break, but then there's that other dynamic of social media and how do you work that aspect of it? Let me ask you, do you guys make physical CDs for marketing at all or no?
We did for a bit. Yeah, we had EPs of our, we had CDs of our first EP. I remember we bulk ordered those. But it's not as big of a priority for us anymore, I don't think. It's always good to have a handful of CDs just in case people want them. You know, you can throw them out on the merch table at shows just to, you know, if you want to listen to it in the car or something. But mainly we're just trying to prioritize, like you said, you know, presence on social media and other kinds of merch that would get the brand out there. But
yeah, the only demand I see for CDs, believe it or not, is from radio stations. You know, they don't want you to. It's really weird. I mean, try to find a CD player.
Yeah,
number one. This is from an old man talking, right?
They don't even have them in cars anymore. It's literally just like satellite. Yeah. So
that's basically what they're used for, or like you say on the merch thing. And then what are they going to do? Give it to their grandparents because they still have the CD. Hey, when we came into the show today, we heard the song "What Lies Ahead." So either of you guys grabbed this? You know, how did that germinate? How did that become a song? When was that released? And give me some history on it.
Yeah, that song was off of our first EP, and that's kind of one of the reasons that we chose this song in particular, was to kind of show a little bit of a progression. But this song was written by our friend Greg and has a lot of pretty cool, in my opinion, lyrical themes about like moving on and kind of dealing with past relationships or trauma. But he kind of wrote it. And it, like I said, it was in that beginning phase that he kind of brought it to the group when it was mostly fully written. And we kind of just put our tweaks here and there. But I think it's a really good showcase of, you know, what the band can do. It's personally a live staple of ours. Evan always does an awesome rock and drum solo with it. And it just kind of has that vibe of like an up-tempo pop punk song with some maybe more darker, more complex lyrics at certain points. And yeah, it just kind of gives a good showcase of like our early stages and what we were all about. Evan,
I think it's a good gateway song in my eyes, which is like, if you listen to it in the context of our entire discography, it gives you a good idea of where we started, you know, that you can hear the influences of the first EP. But also, I think it might have been the last song that we wrote or that was on that EP, or if it wasn't, it kind of feels like it was, just because like we use that as definitely sort of a springboard to explore more instrumental varieties moving forward when we continue to write songs after that. You know, there's a lot of dynamic changes, like tempo changes in this song and, you know, time signature and things like that. So we definitely use that as a basis for some of our songwriting moving forward after we ended up finishing it.
Nice. So let's do this. Let's just take a quick break. And when we come back, I really want to talk about your influences individually in music. And I'd like to explore social media a little bit more, because it's such a dynamic thing that's changing, and just another thing you need in your tool belt to be heard. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Final Call. Hang with us, everybody. Are you a singer-songwriter who wants to take your music to the next level, and you need some professional musicians and really that expertise to help you along? Well, check out Melts in Your Ears Studio. It's Mike Nugent's studio. If you like what you've heard here today, Mike's the guy who can make the connections, put the tracks together, and give you a quality product. Check it out. Hey, everybody. We're back with Final Call, and we're going to talk about the influences these guys have. Evan, why don't you take it? What was your major influence?
Yeah, cool. Thanks. So I grew up listening to basically whatever my dad would put on in the car. I grew up way out east on Long Island, so we had really long rides to school every day because I went to school obviously in Huntington and also in Setauket for middle school. So I was in the car with my dad for at least 2 hours every day. And he was a big new wave guy. He loves the Police. He would always play those. We basically just had like 80s greatest hits CDs that we would listen to. So I grew up listening to a lot of that. A lot of The Cure. I remember we had their greatest hits CD too. He, I think, was influenced by his brothers to listen to the Beatles. So I grew up listening to the Beatles all the time as well. So that's kind of what I grew up with. That's what I enjoyed listening to. And then when I went to high school and met these guys, they are the ones who introduced me to the pop punks, like your Green Days, your Blink-182s, your Yellow Cards, your Sum 41s, things like that. I didn't really know any of that stuff until I met these guys. Pat and Greg showed me a lot of that. So, and that's kind of what influenced that was around the time I started to learn how to drum. So that's what influenced my drumming, I would say. And just like style of, what I'm going for. I think about Tré Cool, the Green Day drummer, all the time when I'm up there on stage. I've seen so many of his live performances. That's what I try to emulate in my writing and my performances. So yeah, around the time we started to write music and learn our instruments a little bit more, I was definitely more on the pop punk kind of train. Now I listen to a lot more alternative indie stuff, which has, everything you listen to influences your songwriting, and that's definitely felt it partially as well. I listen to a lot of like Arctic Monkeys, Tame Impala kind of now, just getting a little bit more on the independent side of things. They're not really independent, but that's what it's called. So yeah, I've kind of run the gamut of a bunch of different genres and just influenced by a lot of different people in my life. So I'm thankful for that. Definitely.
All right. One other question. Who's your favorite drummer of all time?
That's hard. I mentioned Tré Cool. He's definitely up there.
No, you can't go back to him. You got to think. You got to think now.
Travis Barker is hard to beat. Like he's too good, Also, Ringo has a soft spot in my heart. I know he's Ringo, but like I loved the Beatles so much when I was a kid that I will always get down. I'll never say no to listening to a good Ringo beat for sure.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Pat, you're up.
All right. Well, as Evan mentioned, that we are a pop punk alternative rock band, so I think all four of us have a very strong influence by a lot of those, really big pop punk alternative rock bands. So Green Day, Blink-182, Weezer, Foo Fighters, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy. But I think we each, like Evan said, he tends to stray more into the indie side. I tend to stray a little bit more into like the singer-songwriter or acoustic or soft rock side. So I'm a really, really big Oasis fan. I like James Taylor a lot. I'll listen to Ed Sheeran a decent amount. And I think that just comes from, my love of acoustic rock and everything. But Basket Case by Green Day is definitely the song that like changed my life. My dad put it on my iPod when I was in 5th grade, and I just kind of never looked back from there. So I think a lot of my vocal styles and stage performance and, songwriting techniques, a lot of that comes from Billy Joe Armstrong and Green Day and what they've done for, the face of alternative rock music.
Now, besides your influences, Pat, I'm really interested in, how do I put this? How you found your voice to sing in the band. Mm-hmm. And over the 9 years, have you had any dramatic changes in how you sing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. So I was actually one of those singers who I've never been in chorus or had a vocal lesson or anything. So it was kind of more just like something that I did on the side. And I've never been classically trained or anything, which I think has its pros and cons. Because as I was let's just say, high school, college, puberty era, when your voice is kind of becoming what it is, those were those pop punk bands, which tend to have like more nasally voices, tend to sing a lot higher, a lot more upbeat type of energy in their voices. That's definitely what influenced my voice as like we were becoming a band and started to write our own music and stuff. So that's definitely where, if I was going to attribute kind of like how my voice is and how I work on it. That being said, as you said, we've been a band for 9 years now, so things do change over time. So I would say just my voice getting a little bit deeper, you can definitely kind of see some of that over the progression of our albums. And just kind of like fine tuning things, I'm just always trying to improve, whether that be on our original songs or live performances. So just kind of fine tuning to introduce some more like classical vocal techniques. I was part of an a cappella group in college, so that taught me a lot about, pitches and keys and vibrato, and just other things that I can kind of introduce into the songs to make it a little bit more interesting. So
now, is it pretty much you as far as the lead singer, or do the other guys also support you in the songs as well?
It is just me. And for the most part, on the stuff we've recorded thus far, the backup vocals are either me or a combination of the band doing like a gang vocal type of thing. We're trying to incorporate a little bit more of those backups into our live performances and stuff, and even into writing, more songs, kind of giving, allocating that backup responsibility a little bit more. But yeah, primarily me for the singing.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because when you're in the studio, obviously you can tweak things and go that. But now, how do you emulate what you did in the studio when you're out and about and doing? You want to do justice to the song, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, we just recently started prioritizing, or just for this last show, we definitely took time to focus on backups, just because, whenever you watch a live performance, if there's something that's good and you can't really place it, in my opinion, it's always the backups coming in and making it sound just like more full, and a little bit more dynamic than you would think. So we tried to push it at this last show, but it's hard to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about social media as my voice squeaks, talking about vocals, right? What I find interesting with bands and solo acts today is, one, there's a kind of like a generational gap between older musicians who are not, they know Facebook and that's it, and they don't want to touch anything else to get the word out. They almost look at social media as a bragging as opposed to promotional and getting the word out and increasing your audience. How do you guys approach it now? By the way, I do like your videos. I think you were on a rooftop somewhere, or you were on the High Line, I recognized.
Yeah. Yep.
So great place to do a video. How do you handle it now? I mean, as you approach it, because there's got to be some consistency, from what I understand, if you want to get the message out.
Yeah, I mean, like we tend to stray towards the younger side, like you said, try to use it as promotional materials. One, because we want to expand our fan base and exposure and get more people to listen to us, but especially with some of the newer platforms like TikTok, like you can just see there's so many musicians who are gaining recognition through TikTok, like people who have won Grammys was, originally got famous through TikTok 2 years ago.
It's amazing.
So it's unbelievable. So we're really just trying to get exposure, try to get more people to listen to our music. And then where we can, we'll also try to input some of our personalities. So we'll post a TikTok, that has our musical influences, or whether we think a song is good or not, just a little bit more fun things to kind of give the band side of it. But a lot of our social media, and we do have all the major platforms, if, anyone is interested in following us, is more about, promoting upcoming shows or upcoming releases, any merch that we might have for sale, things like that. But we will use it as a promotional tool where we can.
Yeah, and as a reminder to our audience, take a look in the chapter marks. You'll see all the different links for the band, Spotify, playlists, so on and so forth, so you can connect with them. Just an interesting a tidbit, and I was talking to the Como brothers, who are from Long Island. Great guys, big on social media, kind of like a pop duo. Remind me of the Everly Brothers.
Okay.
And right now, YouTube is actually paying to do shorts for different creators to do shorts, because they're trying to steal away the audience from TikTok.
Right.
So they're financing. So they get paid $30 a reel to do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. And I just didn't hear from them. I heard it from another guy who's in your neighborhood, Manhattan, a guy named Dante Mazzetti, another great guy. During COVID, he played from his balcony every night. with his wife, and he grew to like 42,000 followers, and he's
oh wow,
a Dylan-esque type of guy, and a really nice guy. And he's a fireman in New York City. That's his day job, and so he's got a pension coming eventually, which is which always comes in handy. Hey, let's talk about the second song. I'm sorry, Evan. Did you want to talk about social media or no?
No, I mean, Pat hit all the highlights. We definitely we view it as a tool for exposure and like promoting upcoming shows. We put all of our live performances on YouTube, so if anybody wants to view those, you can see all that we've been up to. And then we have 2 music videos out there. Those were a ton of fun to film. That's what you were talking about up on the Highline. Right. And on the roof. We filmed a music video for our one of our singles from our previous album at Pat and my old apartment up in Chelsea, Manhattan, and we had our friend Matt Feedy to come and help us film that. So that was a ton of fun. And yeah, I mean, we're just trying to put out as much stuff. We try to stay active on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all those, and just let everybody know what we're up to and what's coming up.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about Farewell, correct? The second song that you brought to it. So whoever wants to take it and just kind of give me how the song came about. By the way, I never ask a singer-songwriter, what does it mean? Okay, because you can't do that. I mean, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. But you may want to talk about the influences or who wrote it. And then as soon as we go through that, then we'll have our audience have a listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, Farewell was a ton of fun to write. It was definitely a group effort. I think Greg had the skeleton.
Wait a second. Is this the drummer telling me he wrote a song for the band?
No,
the joke.
After the third.
It was nice knowing you, Evan, and we'll see you in another band in the future someday. Sorry, go ahead.
But it was a lot of fun. We all wrote different parts of it. It's definitely kind of a puzzle of a song that we all put together. Greg had he had most of the lyrics written, I think, and some of the melodies. I remember very distinctly, actually, Greg and I in my basement writing part of it together. We hadn't written the solo yet or the bridge part, so Greg and I sat down, and it's honestly one of my favorite memories that I have of just being in the band. Is just sitting down and writing, and bouncing ideas off each other and saying like, oh, let me do this. And, oh, that sounds like shit. Do something else, or, something like that. And figuring out what sounds good together. So yeah, we definitely, this was a group effort song. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned this or that we played it now, because it is definitely relevant to our internet presence as well, I would say, because Farewell is the first song where we were able to apply to Spotify to get it on one of their sponsored playlists. So I think we got it onto 2 of them. And as you could probably guess, it blew up from that, at least in, relation to what we had been doing at that point. We got a ton of listens from those. So that was really awesome to see that Spotify recognized that as a song that was good enough to promote from their side. And now it's our most listened to song on Spotify.
That's amazing, because it's just even the same thing with my podcast. If you get recommended, all of a sudden overnight you're to 10,000, 50,000 people.
Yeah, that's why the song got so big for sure.
Excellent. Pat,
and on Spotify, you can, from an artist perspective, you can it's pretty good about showing you some metrics about, how have your listens changed over the year or the month or the week or whatever, and how many of them are male versus female, and where they live too. So like this was the first song that, it went from kind of a local group of people we knew, maybe a couple of pop punk or alt rock fans in the industry who we had met at shows and whatnot, to one of our songs being listened to in Indonesia, in Ireland, and being featured on a playlist with bands that I have on the wall behind me, it was just it was a big step for us. And this was part of our second EP. So this was like our second outing. And this was kind of the highlight from that particular EP. And it has a very kind of fast punk rock vibe to it, reminiscent of Blink-182.
It was fun to write. It's fun to play live. We still do it to this day. So yeah, it's a good time.
Nice. All right. So without further ado, let's listen to Farewell. And we'll be right back after the song, everybody. Check it out.
It's not that I don't like you. It's I can't take this anymore. All these days wasting away, so I'm hoping for so much more. I won't regret you, but I just need to lose you. Leave you in the dust again as I walk this path on my own. I think that you should know. Remember when we said hello? 'Cause of all your hectic times, I'm gonna say goodbye. And there's nothing that I miss. I don't remember our last kiss. 'Cause I always look ahead, like when I'm binging your Walking Dead. So farewell, my bell. I wish you well, and I hope this is the last I hear from you. I know it hurts to desert, but I know that it's best for you too. I'm fragile on the surface, but my heart is hard as stone. I knew you weren't worth it, so I had to let you go. And now I'm glad that it's over. Stop the war before it begun. I'm happy to look forward, 'cause this can't be undone. So farewell, my bell. I wish you well, and I hope this is the last I hear from you. I know it hurts to desert, but I know that it's best for you too. Yeah, So farewell, my bell. I wish you well, and I hope this is the last I hear from you. I know it hurts to desert, but I know that it's best for you too. It's not that I don't like you, it's I can't take this anymore. All these days wasting away, so I'm hoping for so much more. I won't regret you, but I just need to lose you. Leave you in the dust again as I walk this path on my So farewell.
Hey, everybody, we're back with Final Call. And guys, we touched on moving from the studio to your live performances and kind of emulating or not emulating what you do in the studio. But tell me about your live performances, what you've done recently, and what type of performances are you doing in types of venues and stuff like that, and what people can expect when they go see Final Call.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of like we touched on before, we started and we still definitely play on Long Island. We absolutely do. And we actually have an upcoming show at Finley's.
Oh, yeah, sure.
In Huntington in the Village. So that's on Friday, December 16th from 8 to 11. But like we touched on, we started off a lot of places on LI, like Amityville Music Hall, Revolution, 89 North, House of Brews, no specific town or anything, went all around. Napper Tandy's we've played. But as we've, kind of shifted bases a little bit into the city, we've been doing more gigs here. So we played at the Red Lion in the West Village a couple weeks ago, which was one of our biggest shows. We played at Parkside Lounge on the Lower East Side, Rockwood Music Hall.
So,
and
let me interrupt you. I'm sorry, because I do that once and again. So what size audiences are you doing when you're in the city? And what I think is great about the city, and I was just thinking about this the other day, is you just got exposure to such a huge population. Even though there's a big population on Long Island, it's even more like that in New York. So if you're going to increase your fan base, you're going to be in Brooklyn and New York, Long Island City to get it done. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Pat.
No, not at all. That's a good question. Typically, if we're only doing a couple shows a year or one every couple months or so, we do tend to pull in a lot of our own fans and friends and family and stuff. But like you said, we get a lot of good exposure just from people in the city. So like the Red Lion show, we probably had about 150 people, give or take.
Yeah, it was pretty back. We had the benefit of the World Cup game that day helping us out as well too.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I would say like typically our shows range from like 75 people to 200 people we've had, depending on the show. So that's it in terms, number of people. But I think we place, as a band, at least, we place a lot of emphasis, an equal, if not more emphasis on our live performances, just because as a pop punk band, and one that sometimes plays to decent sized crowds, you have to keep people entertained.
Absolutely.
So we do try really hard to bring a lot of crowd participation, and when we're not playing our own music, play a lot of covers that are going to get people into it and singing and dancing. And we just really like to have a good time with everyone. So we usually get, pretty positive feedback and responses from people who have never seen us, just about, how much fun everyone's having. And we try to have fun both with the audience and with each other, because we've known each other forever.
And what that defines for me, and I've seen this, and we've all seen people out live, where you have someone who's a performer, who's very good at what they do, they're doing it, yet they're not so focused in on the entertainment or the yin and yang with the audience, or putting weight on, hey, you know what, I'm here to help them have fun, okay, which is some aspect of things. Sometimes when people are gigging out, I'm background music or what have you, and others it's like, I really want to be engaged, and then you feed off of that, obviously, that energy. But it takes a lot of experience to do that and recognize, and a front man can really drive that. So there's probably a lot of responsibility on you, Pat, to help pull that together. Because you're not going to rely on Evan, and God knows what the hell Greg.
I don't do anything. I'm sitting in the back. I occasionally chime in on my backup microphone. I don't do anything.
He's like a live metronome, and we all recognize that with most drummers, But the real big mystery is this guy, Dr. Greg. I mean, so there's a third member of the band, for the audience who doesn't know, who, I don't know, I guess he didn't have time to show up and help promote the band on the Long Island Sound podcast. I don't know. I haven't met the guy. With my luck, the guy is probably 6'8" and 250 pounds, and he's going to kick my ass if I ever see him in public again. But
that's exactly what he looks like.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
He's. Oh no. Okay. No. Oh, God. I almost lost my bladder there for a second. I apologize. But someday I'll meet Greg, and we'll find out. We'll find out the rest of the story. Because I feel kind of slighted. I'm just saying. I mean, he got. That's okay.
I get it.
Well, I don't know.
What do you want to talk about now?
I mean, just to add on to the live show.
All right, we'll talk about the live show. Go ahead, Evan. Go ahead, yap away.
I mean, Pat he's very eloquent. He's saying everything I'm going to say. But I mean, the point of the live shows, at least from my perspective, is twofold. It's to get people that you know to come, and it's to get people that you don't know to come. It's a fun time because we tend to, or we like to have a lot of people there that already know us. We always invite all of our friends, all of our family, whoever wants to come, and that's what makes it fun for us. But the other, on the other side of the coin is to get people to come who don't know us. And then maybe they come, and if we don't suck, they're like, hey, these guys don't suck. And I'll listen to them, in my spare time. And I think that's what we've started to see playing more, playing bigger venues like here in Manhattan, and also some of the bigger ones we played on Long Island. I know at the last show that we played there, we were talking to our friends afterwards, and they said there were a bunch of people there who were coming up and talking to them and being like, hey, do you know this band? They sound pretty good. And that's the best part of it to hear, at least for me, is like people coming in and realizing like, hey, this band is worth my time, and that's the fiscal reason that we play the shows. But the real reason we play them is just because it's a good time for us. Like we like playing live, we like playing for people, and we're going to do that, however long.
Yeah. And the venue operators, obviously they're making money off you. And they see that vibe going on, and they see people having a good time. And guess what that equals? That equals more eating and drinking, which it really does. That's the math of it. You guys know business. So, that's the approach of it. So the third song, if we don't mind switching to that, because I just want to check my list off. Okay. Busted Evan's balls. Check. Busted Greg's balls. Check. Can't bust Pat's balls. He's the main guy of the band. So got that checked. Okay. Hey, let's talk about the last song. So whoever wants to take it and give me some background what the song is, and then we'll have the audience take a listen to it.
Yeah. So this one, you're not going to believe me, but this is a Evan original. This is written by the drummer. I know it's hard to believe, but that's what happened.
Crazy. I
had an idea one day, and I obviously didn't write the whole thing, but I wrote most of the lyrics and got the structure down. And then I worked with Greg to, I remember I was sitting with him and I was like, hey, can you play this? And I would just like hum a melody, and he would, noodle it out on guitar. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. So it definitely helped with, and like I wrote some of the lyrics with Pat too, and he helped me change some things around to make it sound, as perfect as we can get it. So idea came from me, but obviously a lot of influence from everybody else. And it was our second single off of our first full album that we released this past year, back in April of 2022. And also our second music video. We had one for a different song called Sloshed off of our second EP. And then when we were making this album, we decided that we wanted to make another one. So we picked this song to film the video for. That's up on our YouTube channel. There's clips of it on TikTok and Instagram and everything there. So definitely check that out. It was an awesome time to film. It's a good song. It's I'm saying that about my own song. I don't want to sound, pretentious.
It's interesting too. I was listening to music on Spotify, and usually I just play Spotify either through a smart device or what have you. So I'm listening to your song, and for some reason I swipe up, and all of a sudden the video is playing for that song on Spotify, which I was like, oh crap, I didn't know that could do that, which I think is great. I think the more, and this is part of my own curiosity, I always wanted to know more about the band, the people behind the band, what's their story? Just like the newcomers to your live shows, like they want to hear from somebody, like, who are these guys? And, because they have that interest, and that interest is your music first, but then adding that story and the personal aspects to it really kind of fills out a nice picture. Because guess what? I want to listen to people I like as well, and hopefully that's what we're doing in this podcast. We're giving you guys another platform for people to get to know you, Evan and Pat, and nobody knows about Greg. So maybe if I let you on next time, I got to think about it. I don't want to make the offer if I'm being insincere.
That's understandable.
All right. So who wants to introduce the next song? We'll let our audience listen to it. Evan, Evan, I choose you.
Oh, choose me. Okay. Well, this is called Champagne. It was off our most recent album, and hope you enjoy it.
All right. Check it out, everyone.
I saw her at the
everybody, we're back with Final Call. Tell me, Pat, what's the future for the band? What do you've got coming up? Where do you see things heading?
Yeah, so like we mentioned before, we have a show on December 15th at Finley's in Huntington. So just getting prepared for that. We're excited to have a really good time. In terms of what?
You said 15. It's the 16th. I don't want to confuse anyone.
Oh, my bad. 16th.
He doesn't even know when the shows are coming up.
I always get the dates confused. I'm sorry. 16th. But in terms of like things that we're looking forward to as a band, we already, have some draft songs pulled together that we're working on. So probably over the next couple months, we're going to get together, start to hash them out, and maybe even get into the studio to release a single or two. Just kind of depends on what the release schedule might look like. But also just trying to look into, more upcoming shows, both in New York City and Long Island. That's probably what we're going to be putting a lot of our focus into for the next year or so. And yeah, just continuing to work on expanding social media presence, creating new original music that hopefully people love, and putting on some kick-ass shows.
Excellent.
That's what's on the horizon.
Well, I tell you, it was really nice meeting you guys today. I really had a blast talking to you. I really look forward to taking a deeper dive personally into your music, and see what you got to offer. What I've heard so far, I'm very impressed with. The videos are great.
Thank you.
I mean, you guys been together for 9 years, so you've figured something out. And I think, hey, music heals the world. So keep doing what you guys are doing, and
absolutely
enjoy the holidays. And hey, my pleasure to have you here. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment, and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace. Thanks so much for listening. Please rate, review, and comment on the show. We really love to hear from you. And call our listener line at 631-800-3579. Again, thanks so much. Be well.